The massive Centauri Council chamber falls silent as Admiral Zelthorin slams his scaled fist on the holographic table. Light ripples outward from the impact, distorting the three-dimensional battle projections hovering above the assembled representatives. 116 years of war, and we stand at the precipice of extinction. Zelthorin hisses, his dorsal spines flaring with barely contained rage. The Kriaks have adapted to our phase cannons, our quantum torpedoes, even our temporal displacement fields. The 17 species of the Galactic Alliance shift uncomfortably in their environmentally customized seats. None meet the Admiral's four-eyed gaze as casualty figures scroll past on secondary displays. Billions dead, thousands of worlds scared beyond recognition or rendered completely uninhabitable. Ambassador Trell of the methane-breathing Vorex taps a tendril against his breathing apparatus. Perhaps we should consider the unthinkable. Surrender might preserve what remains of our civilizations. A collective murmur of dismay ripples through the chamber. Surrender to the Kriak's dominion meant not just defeat but biological subjugation. Entire species repurposed at the genetic level to serve as living components in the Dominion's ever-expanding war machine. Never, growls General Kina of the feline Rekshani, her fur bristling. My people would rather detonate our planetary cores than live as Kriak's bioservants. In the tense silence that follows, a crystalline chime sounds as Ambassador Laurel of the silicon-based Cartel rises from her hovering platform. Light refracts through her translucent body as she moves toward the center of the chamber. There is one species we haven't consulted, she says, her voice musical yet somber. The universal translators struggle momentarily with the crystalline harmonics of her native speech. A confused murmur spreads through the council. All spacefaring civilizations within 50,000 light-years have either joined our alliance or fallen to the Kriaks, points out Minister Dox of the Machine Collective. Not all, Lyrell continues. The humans joined our alliance briefly 2 centuries ago before retreating to their home system. Their diplomat left a simple message before their delegation departed. She gestures with a crystalline appendage, accessing the ancient diplomatic archives. A holographic image appears, a human female in simple attire unlike the ornate diplomatic garb favored by most species. Should you face a threat beyond your capability, call upon Earth, the recording states simply before fading. Most council members scoff openly at the suggestion. Humans were known for their primitive technology, strange obsession with physical books, and antiquated customs like handwritten treaties. Their ships had been painfully slow, their weapons ineffective, their representatives oddly reticent about technological exchange. With respect, Ambassador Lyrell, Admiral Zelthorin says, not bothering to hide his derision, we need advanced military assistance, not primitive curiosities. The humans couldn't even achieve efficient faster-than-light travel when they joined the Alliance. Lyrell's crystalline form pulses with blue light, the Cartel equivalent of a knowing smile. Admiral, I was junior attaché to our delegation 2 centuries ago. There was always something peculiar about the humans. They observed more than they shared. They asked questions about threats we hadn't encountered yet. And when they departed, their ambassador told me something I've never forgotten. The chamber grows still as Lyrell's voice resonates with perfect recall. She said, "We hope your alliance thrives in peace, but should catastrophe come, remember that humanity sleeps lightly." With defeat looming and options exhausted, even the most desperate measures deserve consideration. Admiral Zelthorin looks around the chamber, meeting the gaze of each representative. Very well, he finally concedes. We will call upon Earth. Ambassador Nilera Tiquan stood on the bridge of the Celestial Envoy, her slender blue fingers tracing the edge of the command console as the diplomatic vessel decelerated from hyperspace. Her heart, all 3 of them, beat rapidly with a mixture of hope and skepticism. The Council had entrusted her with this mission despite her relative youth, perhaps because no senior diplomat wanted to be associated with such a desperate gambit. Ambassador, we've arrived at the coordinates for the Sol system. announced Captain Vex, his chitinous exoskeleton clicking softly as he manipulated the navigation controls. Nalera nodded. Proceed with caution. We know little about humanity's current capabilities. The main view screen activated, showing a rather unremarkable yellow star with 8 planets in orderly orbit. Kaz, the sensor specialist, frowned at his displays, his cranial ridges flushing orange with confusion. Strange readings, Ambassador. The system appears dormant, yet energy signatures suggest enormous power sources beneath planetary surfaces. I'm detecting what might be artificial structures inside several gas giants, and the 4th planet shows evidence of extensive subterranean complexes. Nylera leaned forward. Any defensive systems? Weapons platforms? Nothing obvious, Kaz replied. Though there are small satellites in orbit around several planets. Primitive technology by our standards. Mostly metallic with minimal energy signatures. Captain Vex chittered nervously. That seems inconsistent with a species capable of helping against the Kriaks. Nonetheless, we proceed, Nilera said firmly. Set course for the 3rd planet, Earth. As they approached the blue-green world, communications officer Linny alerted them to an incoming transmission. We're being hailed, Ambassador, audio and visual, using standard Alliance protocols. The view screen shifted to show a human female with dark hair pulled back from her face, wearing a simple gray uniform without insignia or decoration. Welcome to the Sol system, Ambassador Tiquan. I am Director Eliza Chen of Earth Diplomatic Corps. We've been expecting you. Nellera blinked in surprise. You were expecting us. How could you possibly? We monitor all hyperspace corridors within 50 light-years of Sol, Chen replied with a slight smile. A diplomatic vessel of Alliance design approaching our system could only mean one thing, given current galactic events. The implication was clear. These supposedly primitive humans had detected their arrival well before they entered the system, using technology the Alliance didn't know they possessed. Director Chen, I come seeking assistance on behalf of the Galactic Alliance. The situation has become dire. Chen nodded. We've been monitoring the conflict. We had hoped our intervention wouldn't be necessary. Within hours, Nilera found herself aboard a small Earth shuttle descending toward a mountainous region on the planet's northern continent. The vessel landed near what appeared to be a natural formation, but a section of rock face slid away to reveal a hangar. Welcome to Cheyenne Mountain Complex, Director Chen said as they disembarked. One of Earth's oldest military facilities. The interior was surprisingly austere, a stark contrast to the ornate command centers favored by Alliance species. They descended in a primitive mechanical elevator that Chen explained was electromagnetically shielded and independent from all networks. Deep underground, they entered a circular chamber with walls of polished stone. At its center stood a simple pedestal with a small depression. Chen approached it, pressed her thumb against a scanner, and allowed a single drop of blood to fall into the depression. The chamber transformed instantly. Holographic displays materialized throughout the space, showing the entire Sol system in exquisite detail. Before Nalera's astonished eyes, the images showed planetary surfaces beginning to shift and change. What's happening? She asked, watching as massive structures emerged from beneath the surfaces of several planets. We're awakening, Chen said simply. We require 72 hours to fully activate our defense systems. Please inform your Alliance leadership that Earth has answered their call. Nylera stood transfixed on the observation deck of the orbital platform that Director Chen had called Watchtower Alpha. Through the transparent diamond viewport, she witnessed a transformation that defied all her understanding of physics and engineering. Mercury's surface rippled like liquid metal. Vast sections of the planet peeled away in geometric patterns, revealing shipyards and manufacturing complexes that had lain dormant for centuries. Massive vessels began to rise from these facilities, their hulls gleaming with a material that seemed to absorb and reflect light simultaneously. The innermost planet houses our primary construction facilities, explained Admiral Catherine Chen, who had introduced herself as Eliza's sister. Unlike the diplomat, the admiral wore a fitted uniform with subtle insignia indicating rank. Proximity to the sun provides nearly unlimited energy for matter conversion and quantum forging. Nylera struggled to process what she was seeing. Your civilization built all this, and then hid it. After we nearly destroyed ourselves in the last terrestrial war, Admiral Chen said, her expression solemn. Humanity made a collective decision. We would build the ultimate defense force but keep it dormant until absolutely necessary. On a secondary screen, Mars underwent its own metamorphosis. Entire mountain ranges reconfigured themselves, the red dust settling to reveal launch platforms stretching thousands of kilometers across the surface. What Nylera had assumed were natural canyons transformed into docking bays for vessels of unprecedented size. The Valles Marineris shipyards are activating, noted a human technician, monitoring data streams that flowed too quickly for Nylera to follow. All dormant crews reporting optimal status. Most astonishing was the transformation occurring at Jupiter. The gas giant's iconic Great Red Spot, which Nylera had assumed was a natural storm, dispersed like fog before sunlight, revealing a massive construction facility larger than most Alliance worlds. A quantum-stabilized pocket dimension, Admiral Chen explained, noting Nylera's confusion. The facility exists partially in normal space and partially in what we call folded space. It allows us to construct ships of virtually any size without the limitations of conventional physics. The Admiral led Nylera through a teleportation portal to a cavernous chamber deep within Earth's moon. Thousands of humans in simple white garments lay in transparent pods, their bodies connected to an intricate network of glowing filaments. Our pilots are specially trained volunteers who enter suspended animation between conflicts, Admiral Chen explained. Some have been sleeping for over 2 centuries, their minds connected to our defense systems even in slumber. Nylera watched as the sleeping humans began to awaken, their eyes opening in perfect synchronization. Medical teams moved among them with practiced efficiency, disconnecting monitoring equipment and helping them stand. Why maintain biological pilots? Nylera asked. Most Alliance species transitioned to AI navigation centuries ago. Human intuition cannot be replicated, Admiral Chen replied. We discovered that artificial intelligence, no matter how advanced, lacks a fundamental quality that human consciousness provides: the ability to make creative, unpredictable decisions that transcend pure logic. Our pilots train for decades, their neural patterns optimized for perfect ship integration, while maintaining their essential humanity. Nylera began to understand. Humanity hadn't retreated from the galactic community out of weakness. They had withdrawn to focus entirely on perfecting their defensive capabilities, while maintaining a peaceful society on the surface. The primitive technology they had demonstrated to the Alliance had been a carefully crafted facade. How many vessels can you deploy? She asked, watching as more ships emerged from Saturn's rings, which were apparently not rings at all but disguised construction facilities. Admiral Chen's expression remained neutral, but something like pride flickered in her eyes. Enough to end this war in a single engagement. The human fleet assembled with impossible precision at Lunar Orbital Station Alpha, a massive ring structure that had seemingly materialized from beneath the moon's cratered surface. Nylera, along with a small delegation of Alliance representatives who had arrived following her initial reports, watched in stunned silence as vessels of various configurations moved into formation without a single course correction. How are they coordinating without communications? Whispered Sub-Admiral Thrix of the Avian Peregrines, his feathered crest rising in agitation. I detect no command frequencies, no quantum entanglement signals, nothing. Commander Ekura Takashi, a compact human with calm, measured movements, approached the Alliance delegation. What you're witnessing is the result of pre-synchronized quantum consciousness, he explained. Our vessels don't need to communicate because their actions were determined before they launched, calculated to the microsecond. He led them to an observation deck overlooking the docking bay, where engineers performed final adjustments on a sleek vessel unlike the others. Its hull seemed to ripple with subtle patterns that changed as Nilera shifted her perspective. "Our flagship, the Aurora," Takashi said with quiet pride. "She houses the quantum strategic mind, a cooperative consciousness of our greatest military thinkers from the past 3 centuries. You've preserved the minds of your dead leaders," asked Thrix, his voice somewhere between horror and awe. "Not preserved," corrected Takashi. "Transcribed. Before death, they volunteered their neural patterns and strategic insights to be integrated into a collective consciousness that evolves and adapts over time. The QSM isn't an artificial intelligence. It's human intelligence freed from biological limitations." Alliance scientists among the delegation scanned the vessels with their most advanced equipment, struggling to comprehend technology that seemed to defy known physics. The ships moved without detectable propulsion, their hulls composed of a material that appeared to exist partially outside normal spacetime. "Our drive systems manipulate the underlying fabric of reality rather than moving through it," explained Dr. Maya Patel, the fleet's chief scientific officer. "What you'd call engines, we refer to as reality anchors. They create selective decoupling from conventional physics." She displayed a holographic diagram showing how the ships operated. "This smart matter hull adapts to energy weapons by phase-shifting the affected area out of normal space momentarily. Kinetic impacts are redirected through microsingularities that disperse the force across the entire structure." Most disturbing to the Alliance observers was the absolute silence of the fleet. 10,000 vessels maneuvered in perfect coordination, without a single detectable communication signal passing between them. "How can you possibly coordinate complex battle maneuvers without tactical communication?" demanded General Vorn of the Alliance Strategic Command. A young human engineer nearby smiled cryptically. "We learned long ago that speaking reveals your position. Our greatest advantage is that we listen while others talk." As the final vessels took position, Admiral Catherine Chen joined the delegation. "The fleet is assembled. 10,000 primary vessels, each housing supplementary craft for specialized operations." "And your weapons systems?" asked Nilera, almost afraid of the answer. "We don't think of them as weapons," Chen replied. "We consider them conflict resolution tools. They're designed not to destroy but to neutralize with minimal casualties." She gestured toward the magnificent array of ships now visible through the viewport. "The Kriaks fight to consume and assimilate. We fight to end conflicts permanently, not to perpetuate them. That philosophical difference shapes every aspect of our technology." The vast fleet began to move as one, accelerating toward the edge of the solar system without a ripple in space to mark their passage. "It's time," said Admiral Chen. "We've slept for 2 centuries. Now we awaken to restore peace to the galaxy." The journey to the front lines became a tactical revelation for the Alliance commanders, accompanying the human fleet. Despite traveling through heavily contested space, no Kriaks patrols detected their passage. Human scout ships moved ahead of the main formation, gathering intelligence without triggering a single proximity sensor or alert beacon. "It's as if we're completely invisible," marveled Admiral Zelforin, watching from the command deck of the Aurora. The massive view screen showed real-time tactical data from across 12 star systems, information the Alliance had been unable to obtain despite decades of attempts. "Not invisible," corrected Lieutenant Commander Sarah Wong, the fleet's tactical officer. "We exist slightly out of phase with normal spacetime. We can observe without being observed." Nilera studied the data flowing across secondary displays. "You've mapped the entire Kriaks defensive network in hours. Our intelligence divisions have been attempting this for decades." Admiral Chen nodded, her expression thoughtful, as she analyzed the strategic display. "The Kriaks' biological technology has a fundamental weakness we identified 2 centuries ago, when we first encountered them during our brief membership in your alliance." She magnified a section of the display, showing the molecular structure of a Kriaks bioship. Their neural networks operate on specific quantum frequencies that allow their organic vessels to function as unified organisms. Rather than trying to destroy their ships, we can simply disrupt the connection between vessel and pilot. That's why you withdrew from the Alliance, Nilira realized suddenly. You recognized the Kriak's threat and devoted your entire civilization to developing countermeasures. One of several reasons, Chen acknowledged. We observe troubling patterns in galactic history. Species tend to engage in technological arms races that escalate conflicts rather than resolving them. We chose a different path. In a secure communication chamber adjacent to the command deck, human intelligence officers briefed Alliance commanders on centuries of covert observation. Human stealth probes had been monitoring the Kriaks for generations, mapping their territory, studying their biology, and identifying every weakness in their seemingly invulnerable war machine. Your species has been preparing for this specific conflict for 200 years, asked General Vorn incredulously. Commander Takashi smiled slightly. We prepare for all potential conflicts. The Kriaks represent only one of 17 extinction-level threats we've identified and developed countermeasures for. Meanwhile, deep in Kriak's territory, the Supreme Dominator Vexkeld received troubling reports from his scattered forces. Several deep space monitoring stations had gone silent without warning. Sensor arrays detected strange gravitational anomalies moving faster than should be physically possible. Insignificant anomalies, the Dominator dismissed with a contemptuous flick of his sensory tentacles. Focus all resources on the final assault. Centauri Prime falls tomorrow, and with it, the last meaningful resistance to our dominion. His war strategists projected the battle plan. 50,000 living warships converging on the Alliance capital in their unstoppable claw formation that had heralded the fall of hundreds of worlds. What the Kriaks failed to realize was that human stealth vessels were systematically mapping their entire command structure, identifying every flagship and command node in their vast armada. Teams of human analysts processed the intelligence, feeding it into the quantum strategic mind that calculated the optimal intervention points with perfect precision. Aboard the Aurora, Admiral Chen reviewed the final battle plan with her officers. We will execute Stratagem Kyber at 600 hours. Primary objective: neutralization of all Kriak's forces with minimal casualties. Secondary objective: secure their command structure for negotiated surrender. She turned to Ambassador Nilira. You should contact your Alliance leadership. Tell them that by this time tomorrow, the war will be over. The Kriak's armada emerged from hyperspace around Centauri Prime in perfect attack formation. 50,000 bioships, their organic hulls pulsing with bioluminescent patterns, arranged themselves in the distinctive claw formation that had heralded the fall of hundreds of worlds. The living vessels communicated through quantum-encrypted neural signals, coordinating their movements with the hive mind efficiency that had made them unstoppable for over a century. On the planet below, civilians watched in helpless terror as their skies filled with the bioships. Alliance defenders powered up their weapon systems, knowing they could not survive the onslaught but determined to fight to the last ship. Supreme Battle Coordinator Thex Vo of the Kriaks transmitted the traditional pre-conquest message. Your biological and technological distinctiveness will be added to our own. Resistance is. The transmission cut off abruptly as the Battle Coordinator's flagship detected anomalous energy readings throughout their formation. Without warning, human vessels materialized throughout the Kriak's formation, not just a few ships, but thousands, each positioned with surgical precision beside key command vessels. What manner of technology is this? Demanded the Supreme Dominator through the neural link, his consciousness rippling with unprecedented alarm. No species possesses such teleportation capability. Before any Kriak's vessel could reorient its weapon systems, the humans activated their primary weapon systems. There were no explosive detonations or dramatic energy beams. Instead, precisely calibrated quantum fields expanded from each human ship, enveloping the biological components of the Kriak's vessels. The effect was immediate and devastating. The neural connection between the living ships and their pilots collapsed. Massive dreadnoughts drifted powerless through space. Bioships designed for regeneration found their cellular structures temporarily locked in stasis. From the Alliance Command Center, officers watched in disbelief as the mighty Kriax Armada fell silent. Vessels that had laid waste to countless worlds now drifted helplessly, their weapon systems offline, their navigation unresponsive. By the ancestral stars, whispered Admiral Zelforin, watching the tactical display with mandibles agape. They've neutralized the entire Kriax fleet without firing a single conventional weapon. Admiral Chen's voice came through the comm system, calm and measured. Target neutralization complete. Casualty count 0. The Kriax crews are unharmed, but unable to control their vessels. Please dispatch containment teams to secure their command staff. Lieutenant Commander Wong checked her chronometer. Total engagement time 8 minutes and 17 seconds. Admiral, slightly longer than our projections. Note that in the after-action report, Chen replied, we'll need to recalibrate the quantum field generators for the secondary engagement. Human boarding teams in sleek environmental suits emerged from their vessels, crossing to the immobilized Kriax ships. They moved with practiced efficiency, securing command centers and disabling emergency systems before the Kriax officers could activate self-destruct protocols. On the bridge of the Supreme Dominator's flagship, the boarding team encountered Vexcal himself, his tentacles writhing in fury. What have you done to my ships? He demanded, his vocal sacs pulsing with rage. This technology is impossible. The human team leader removed her helmet, revealing a young woman with calm eyes. Supreme Dominator, by authority of Earth Command, you are hereby detained pending peace negotiations. Your fleet has been neutralized. Your neural network has been temporarily disabled. The war is over. Throughout the Centauri system, Alliance forces watched in stunned silence as the invincible Kriax Armada, the terror of the galaxy for over a century, was rendered harmless in less time than it took to brew a cup of tea. In the Alliance Command Center, Ambassador Nilira turned to Admiral Zelforin, her voice barely above a whisper. They did it. They actually did it. Yes, the Admiral replied grimly. And now we must ask ourselves, what manner of species have we awakened? The Supreme Dominator of the Kriax refused to acknowledge defeat despite his flagship being secured and his primary armada neutralized. From detention, he activated emergency protocols, ordering reserve fleets to launch immediate counterattacks across 20 star systems. The biologicians who served as his communication conduits transmitted his neural commands through backup channels, bypassing the disabled primary network. The Dominion does not surrender, he declared, his voice synthesizer translating his neural patterns into audible speech. We have never known defeat in 12,000 years of conquest. Admiral Chen received this intelligence with an expression of mild disappointment rather than concern. We anticipated this response, she told the Alliance representatives aboard the Aurora. The Kriax evolutionary history has not prepared them to process defeat. They require a more compelling demonstration. What followed became known in galactic history as the simultaneous moment. Human ships appeared instantaneously in every Kriax-controlled system, bypassing all defenses through their full technology. The coordinated action, executed across more than 800 light-years of space, defied conventional understanding of physics. On the Kriax throne world of Hexaxis Prime, citizens looked up to see the sky filled with human vessels that appeared without warning. The massive agricultural hives that sustained their civilization continued functioning, undisturbed by the human presence. Rather than weapons, the ships projected massive holographic displays showing the disabled Kriax Armada at Centauri Prime. Within the royal spawning chambers, the eternal progenitor, genetic source of all Kriax nobility, watched with compound eyes widened in alarm as human representatives materialized directly through supposed impenetrable shields. Impossible. The ancient being chittered, its guard drones moving protectively around it. No technology can penetrate our quantum isolation field. Commander Takashi bowed slightly. a gesture of respect rather than submission. Your Eminence, I am here to deliver a message from Earth Command. We have disabled your military capability without taking a single life. We could have destroyed your civilization, but chose not to. The conflict ends today. The progenitor's neural spines vibrated with defiance. The Kriaks do not recognize defeat. Our bioships will adapt to your technology within one stellar cycle. Our conquest will continue as it has for millennia. Perhaps a demonstration will clarify our position, Takeshi replied evenly. At his signal, a single human vessel positioned above the capital city performed the impossible. It created a localized time dilation field around the Kriaks War Monument, a structure built from the hardest known material in the galaxy. Within the carefully controlled bubble, time accelerated exponentially. The monument, which had stood for 8,000 years, aged 10,000 years in seconds, its supposedly indestructible material crumbling to dust before the stunned population. Simultaneously across all Kriaks worlds, similar demonstrations occurred. Targeted, precise, and ultimately harmless displays of technology so advanced it appeared supernatural to those witnessing it. Reserve fleets found their biological control systems temporarily evolving backward, reverting to pre-sentient states. Weapons platforms disassembled themselves molecule by molecule, then reassembled into inert sculptures. Through each world's communication network, Admiral Chen's message broadcast in perfect Kriaks neural language. This demonstration affects only non-living targets and temporary biological functions. It represents less than 1% of our capability. We offer peace and coexistence. The alternative is not destruction, but irrelevance. The Kriaks may choose their path forward, but the path of war against the Alliance is now closed permanently. In the royal chamber, the eternal progenitor's defiance collapsed into grim acceptance. For the first time in the species' history, the Kriaks encountered a power they could neither consume nor adapt to. We will consider your terms, the ancient being conceded. In the Grand Centauri Peace Hall, representatives from all 17 Alliance species gathered alongside the Kriaks delegation for the signing of the historic accord. The massive chamber, with its crystalline dome reflecting the light of twin suns, had been reconstructed in record time by human engineering teams as a gesture of goodwill. 116 years of devastating war had ended in just 9 days since humanity's awakening. The peace terms, remarkably lenient given the Kriaks' history of aggression, focused on rehabilitation rather than punishment. Kriaks biotech would be redirected toward healing the worlds they had ravaged. Their adaptive evolutionary advantages would serve reconstruction rather than conquest. Director Eliza Chen, now serving as Earth's chief diplomat, addressed the assembled delegates. Today marks not an ending but a beginning. The galaxy stands at a crossroads of cooperation rather than conflict. The eternal progenitor of the Kriaks, attending a diplomatic function for the first time in its 5,000-year lifespan, extended a neural tendril toward the document. We accept these terms and acknowledge our miscalculation regarding humanity's capabilities. As the accord was signed, whispered conversations among Alliance delegates revealed a mixture of gratitude and apprehension. The humans had saved them, yes, but in doing so had revealed themselves as the most formidable power in known space. Ambassador Nilera approached Admiral Catherine Chen at the reception that followed. Your fleet begins its withdrawal tomorrow. The Admiral nodded. Our task is complete. We return to Seoul and to dormancy. The truth about humanity shocks many of my colleagues, Nilera admitted. They believed you were technologically primitive. Now they fear you may have other motives. A reasonable concern, Chen acknowledged, watching as human officers mingled respectfully with representatives of various species. Power often corrupts, which is precisely why we removed ourselves from galactic affairs centuries ago. In a quieter moment during the celebration, Director Chen explained humanity's philosophy to the assembled High Council. We recognized a troubling pattern in our history, she said, her voice carrying easily through the chamber despite its soft tone. Humanity excels at warfare in ways that terrify even ourselves. After nearly destroying our homeworld, we chose a different path, to create the ultimate defensive capability, but use it only when absolutely necessary. Yet you concealed this power from the Alliance when you joined briefly, observed Admiral Zelforin. Some might call that deception. We call it prudence, Chen replied evenly. Would you have reacted differently had you known? Would you have sought to acquire our technology or asked us to solve every conflict? We needed to observe, to understand the great powers of the galaxy before determining our role within it. Within weeks, the human fleet began its journey home. The Alliance watched with a mixture of relief and apprehension as the vessels that had ended a century-long war gradually disappeared back into planetary infrastructures. Mercury's surface solidified once more, Mars' launch platforms submerged beneath red sand, and Jupiter's great red spot reformed to conceal the massive facilities beneath. As the transformation neared completion, Admiral Chen met one last time with Ambassador Nilira on the observation deck of Watchtower Alpha. We returned to our peaceful existence and our fleet to dormancy, Chen said, gazing at Earth rotating serenely below. But remember, should the galaxy face an existential threat again, Earth will answer. Nilira watched the final human warships submerge beneath Earth's oceans. The galaxy will never forget what happened here. Your species rewrote history in 8 minutes. Chen smiled slightly. And now we return to writing poetry, growing gardens, and raising our children. That is the true strength of humanity, not our weapons, but our ability to set them aside. Throughout the Alliance, a new saying spread among military academies. Pray you never hear the silence of humanity awakening.